Okay. Are we, think, I think we're on. Now, this is my second Facebook Live attempt. So I'm just hoping I can see your comments, and I was trying to see it on my computer, but if somebody comes on, just, say hi, tell me where you're from, and that way I know that this is working. Because right now, I don't see anything yet, so I'm hoping this is working. Let's see. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to keep talking, and I'm going to hope that this is working. Okay, I got a like. Thanks. Okay, if you're just coming in, Angela, okay, now I see that you're here. Thank you so much. Okay, so there we go. Oh, hey, Kaylee. Hey, oh, this is fun. Okay, so I can see you all right here, so I don't think I need to, watch you on my computer. Okay, so come on in. I hope you guys are getting yourselves comfortable. Maybe get a cup of coffee or tea. I have my tea right here, and it's actually in a coffee mug because I thought I was searching for a Boston cup, and this is what I found. This is my husband's Fenway Park Boston cup, and this is a piece of the Green Monster. So I thought that was fitting for our talk today. I am at the breakfast bar of my kitchen, and this is where I write. I actually don't have a home office, so most of the time I just find myself here, and there's plenty of natural light, and this is just my happy writing place. So hey, Tracy, this is great. So yeah, as you're coming in, just say hi and tell me where you're watching from, because it'd be great to see where you are all from. I want to thank, I love, hey, Carrie. Oh, it's so sweet that you're here. Carrie Taransky, she is an awesome historical author. Thanks, Carrie. I want to thank this group. This group is amazing. I love the interaction. I love the topics. Thank you to our moderators who are, I know they work so hard and they don't get a lot of breaks, so thank you so much to them. Thank you especially to Angela Ruth Strong, who really spearheaded this book club avid readers discussion. And I know I'm the guinea pig, but I've never been happier to be a guinea pig. So we'll be here next month with Angela and her book, Finding Love in Park City, Utah. And then we have Heather Day Gilbert in March with her book, Guilt by Association. So those ladies are fantastic, and I am so looking forward to reading their book. Great, Angela. This is really neat. I'm glad I can see the comments on my camera. That's great. So I thought I would just keep coming in, keep saying, hey, tell me where you're from. I want to know where you are all from. I'm going to start our time by telling you a little bit about my publishing journey, because although, this is my debut novel, my first published novel, but it's actually my 6th manuscript. So, there's quite a story behind that. I have, always, oh, Ontario, okay, I see how this can be like a squirrel moment, because I see you and I get excited and I don't want to keep talking. Hey, Mary from Ontario, Canada. Awesome. Great. I'll try to stay on track as best as I can. What my idea is for this is to talk about a few things, kind of ask you a few questions, and then at the end of our talk, we'll have a time for questions so that I can answer anything that you're wondering about. Sorry. From Quincy, California. Wow. Wow, awesome. Great, Judy. Hey, I'm so glad you could join us. Okay, so back to my publishing story journey. I have always, keep commenting. I'm going to read all these comments after. So even if I can't say hi to everyone, know that I'm going to read them after, and I'm going to have so much fun doing it. I have always liked to write. When I was a kid, I liked to write, and actually right here, I just wanted to show you. This is my first manuscript written in 3rd grade titled, "I'd Cross the Desert for Milk." And I don't know, what do you think? I think I think my covers have come a long way, and I'm trusting that my writing has too. But I like to write when I was a kid. I kind of put away the writing when I reached high school. I thought to put it aside for more practical things. That actually didn't pan out either, because I ended up getting married to my high school sweetheart pretty young, and we had 2 sons pretty quickly. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and that's when I went back to my writing. I would write during my boys' nap times, and I did it secretly. You know, I kind of thought it was maybe this foolish thing, and who was I kidding that I could write a novel and maybe get it published one day. So I didn't even tell my husband at first. But that didn't last long, because I'm not good at keeping secrets from my husband, which I guess is a good thing. So I told him, and he was very encouraging. And I joined ACFW, which is American Christian Fiction Writers. And if there's any writers out there that are a part of that, just give a shout out for ACFW. They're a great, great organization. That was in 2006. I joined ACFW, and I joined and I entered their Genesis contest. This was their contest, national contest for unpublished writers. So I entered that, and a short time later, I received my contest scores back, and they were horrible. And, you know, along about that time, I realized that I was not going to be hearing from my dream agent, who I had sent a query to several months ago. So, you know, those 2 kind of rejections really discouraged me, and I put my writing aside for a while. I just thought, you know, I guess this isn't the path that God has me on after all, and I guess I don't have this talent that you need to write a book. So I put the writing aside for several months, but you know, God kept pulling me back to it, and really I couldn't imagine not writing. So I decided if I didn't have this crazy natural talent that I needed, then I was going to work really hard and try my best at, you know, improving my craft. I joined a critique group. I read anything and everything I could on writing. Susan May Warren had wonderful books on writing, and I devoured those. Brandolyn Collins, James Scott Bell had books that really, really helped me. I continued to submit to agents, continued writing, continued submitting to contests, and taking the feedback that anybody would give me and trying to incorporate it into just improving my writing. So that, you know, let's fast forward actually 8 years to 2014, and, you know, several manuscripts later, I actually ended up winning the Genesis contest in the historical category. That win helped me land my current agent, who is actually that first agent I sent that query to all those years ago. So cool how that worked out. 18 months after I signed with the agency, and after more rejections, this time from publishing houses, I handed in manuscript number 6 to my agent, which was Freedom's Ring. I'd worked as hard as I could on this, and I just gave it over to God and put it in her hands. Now, at this time, I was homeschooling my kids. I'd been writing a lot, so I was ready to kind of get out a little bit, and we needed some help financially. So I went down the street. I got a part-time job at my local Walmart in the garden center. I will never forget the beautiful May night. My husband and 2 sons came into the garden center where I worked, and I was so surprised to see them. I just put down my leaky hose, you know, wiped my hands on my super attractive blue smock, and I nearly fell into the petunias when my husband told me that my agent had left a message on our home phone with news of a contract offer from my dream publishing house, which was Tyndale House Publishers. And, this is the first part of that contract. And I have to say, after working with Tyndale on this book and my next book, they are still my dream publisher. They are just amazing. Thanks, Angela. It makes me happy too. Okay, so I wrote down a few things, so I wasn't just winging this, and I'll refer to my notes. So let's get to the book, because that's what we're here to talk about. For those of you who don't know, Freedom's Ring is about a woman who's in the Boston Marathon bombing, and she's left with this antique ring from a mysterious savior. And after she finds him, they unearth the 200-year-old history of a woman who suffered tremendous loss in the Boston Massacre. A woman who is torn between the love of two men, one a patriot and one a redcoat. I always knew that a story was waiting for me in revolutionary Boston, but I didn't know when that would happen. After the Boston Marathon bombing happened, and this was just months after the Sandy Hook tragedy, I was really shaken up. And my faith, which I considered strong at the time, was also really shaken up. I was just becoming consumed with this, potential for evil in the world. And whether it was, because I was geographically sandwiched between these two tragedies, whether it was because, I was an avid long distance runner, I'd always dreamed of running the Boston Marathon. I had run many marathons. Or whether it was the fact that, I had kids the same age as those at Sandy Hook. Whatever it was, probably all of those and more. I just became like this festering ugliness in my soul was happening. It was just this fear and this distrust. I didn't want to send my kids to school. When I went out in public, I was just very distrustful of strangers. It was just this ugly place, and I'd never really known anything like it. Just as an example, in the days following the marathon bombing, when one of the brothers was still on the loose, a knock came at my door, and my kids were home. It was April vacation, and I just glimpsed out the front door, and I see this young face, this dark hair, and this black and white baseball cap. And all I'm thinking about are these pictures that are all over the news of these brothers. And, it seems like they could be anywhere. And I am certain that a bomber is at my front door. So I go in the other room, I grab the phone, I grab my kids, and we go in their room and hide. Now, despite my sons assuring me that they could take out the bad guy with their Nerf guns, I call the police. Not long after, there are two officers in my backyard, guns drawn, searching my shed. They came back not too long after, and they told me that the person who was actually standing at my door was a young tax assessor. We had been doing work on our house at the time, and I guess they just wanted to check up, and they don't make appointments. So, while I totally felt foolish and just a little crazy about that and other things going on at the time, I was actually able to use the fear I was feeling in the writing of this story and even work out many of my own struggles through it. This was definitely a healing story for me. Everyone has struggled with something they fear or something in their past that they wish they could do over again. And this is definitely Annie and Liberty's struggle in Freedom's Ring. Annie is wondering how she's ever going to get past the marathon bombing and the subsequent choices she's made. And Liberty's wondering how she's ever going to get past the Boston Massacre and the death of her brother and the choice she made to steal a ring from a man who has shown her nothing but kindness. And so I was hoping that we could get into a little bit of conversation here. And great, Angela's starting on already. I once called the police for noises I heard. Oh my goodness, your cats. That's so funny. Okay, I don't feel quite so crazy now. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, I want to know what you're thinking because, and we can get as real as you want here. I don't expect you all to tell me your fears, but, you know, I think it helps when we kind of come together and get real about this stuff because, you know, there's this tricky walk between our walk of faith and fear, and you know, how does that play out? And when you go through fear, like what helps you? I mean, is it a small group at church? Is it going to God's word? Is it a best friend you get to call? What how do you work that out with, you know, in real life? And that was the struggle I had, and I felt even guilt going through this, kind of like, well, you know, I'm supposed to be a Christian, and I'm telling myself that I put my trust in God, and yet that was not the reality at the time. So if you have any wisdom on this, feel free to comment and chime in with that, and that's great. If you know, if I had to say one thing that I would want anybody to take away from this story, it's that being weak, being, you know, inadequate, maybe it's not such a bad thing. You know, as soon as I think that I, you know, have it all together, that's when, you know, I'm totally just stumbling over my pride the next minute. And I so often look to my great strength or my great faith. But maybe it's not even about my faith. Maybe it's about who I'm putting my faith in. Because Jesus is strong enough and capable enough and simply enough to take any mess that I have and turn it into something beautiful. And, you know, if you put it into his hands, and I truly believe that, and I believe that's what he did with this book. So I'm very excited about that. Let's say what else. Let's get into some of the history here, and if you have any comments, just pop them in there. I'm gonna start talking about some of the history, and if there's any historical writers out there, feel free to chime in, because when I write real historical characters, which there are several in Freedom's Ring, I feel kind of a heavy responsibility when I do that to stay true as I can to who they were. I mean, they're a real person, and I don't want to diverge from that. And yet they're in this fictional setting, so you know there's that little bit of conflict there. So I'm just going to outline a couple. James Caldwell, he actually was a real historical person. He was a 17-year-old sailor who was in Boston at the time of the massacre. He was shot and he was killed that night. Now, the real James was not known to have any true family. So that's one place where being a writer was kind of fun. So I give him a family. I gave him a sister, Liberty, and his death really sets her story going. Now, then we have Sam Adams, and he is, you know, he's Sam Adams. Everybody knows Sam Adams as this like firebrand, this crazy leader willing to do anything for the revolution, and he really was. But reading some of his biography, his earlier childhood, and seeing what happened with his father and the crown, you can just, it's really interesting to see how he came to be this person, this just dynamic leader for the Sons of Liberty and even the American Revolution. And you know, there's a scene in my book between Liberty and Sam Adams where they're exchanging words over the fact that the Sons of Liberty are absolutely using the deaths of those in the massacre as a means of furthering their cause. And whether or not those that have died would have wanted it that way, they probably would have been okay with that. Liberty, who is hurting over the death of her brother, has a few words to say to Mr. Adams. And I enjoyed writing the scenes between them. you know, I feel like they have this, there was not a lot of scenes between them, but I feel like they have this mutual respect for one another. And even though they don't always see eye to eye, you know? So that was fun. And of course I needed to include him. I mean, it's colonial revolutionary Boston. I have to include Sam Adams. And then of course there's the time capsule. For those of you who've read the book, the time capsule really plays an important part in that as well. And I just wanted to touch on that briefly because, you know, I was having a hard time writing this story. And I mean, any story can be challenging to write. Time slip story where you have the contemporary and the historical and you have to kind of fit them together in hopefully a satisfying manner for the reader. That was especially challenging, and I was having one of those rough writing days when my husband came home and he said, "Hey, did you see what they found at the State House?" And I didn't know, and he said it was a time capsule buried by Sam Adams and Paul Revere. I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, God, you rock, because only he could have just orchestrated that so perfectly. And, you know, he was there when Sam Adams and Paul Revere were burying that time capsule, and he knew the implications for a wide variety of people. But that included me in the writing of this book and you in the reading of it. So that was so cool. Yeah, Kelsey, absolutely. Wow. It was just it was a real affirmation that, you know, this was something that, you know, hopefully was going to honor him. So that was fun. The time capsule actually included newspapers, clippings, coins. There was a plaque. There was a medal of President George Washington. He was the president at the time of the burying of the time capsule. And Liberty's poem was actually not in there. And hey, Cynthia, I'm glad you're here with us. Liberty's poem was actually not there, but so I fictionalized that a bit, and it was put on display at the Museum of Fine Arts, and that plays into the book as well. So that was really fun and an important connection point that helped me with the contemporary and historical stories. Okay, so I hope you're thinking of your questions, because this is going by, honestly, let's see, check the time, 3:21. It's going by pretty fast. We're going to get to some giveaways in a little bit, but be thinking of your questions, because we're going to take those at the end, and I hope you have some for me. I wanted to talk a little bit, the other thing I want to talk about is the research. When I research, I read everything I can on the subject. So that was colonial Boston, the American Revolution, Boston Massacre, you know, Sam Adams, the people who played an important part in that. We went to the Lexington reenactments, which were amazing. We went on the Freedom Trail so many times. I was homeschooling my kids at the time I was researching for this, so I would use our research trips as their schooling. And so we went there a lot, and they were starting to get sick of it towards the end. And actually, they went back to school last year, and my youngest son, Noah, had a 5th grade field trip, and he came home and he's like, "You will not guess where we're going." And they were going to the Freedom Trail. Like, he just wanted to go to the zoo or something. But I think they're little Freedom Trail experts by now. That was tons of fun going there. I also went to the New England Historic Genealogical Society in Boston, and I had never done my own genealogical research, and I hope to one day. But they were excellent, and I was able to watch a lot of webinars and go on their computers and look at their books that somebody would go through when searching for their own ancestors. And I was able to talk to a chief genealogist, and he was really instrumental in putting one of these plots together. And I won't say what point it was to ruin it for anybody who hasn't read the book, but that was really, really helpful. And you know, that was another thing that I was fearful about. Like, I hadn't published a book, and it was hard for me to go to people and tell them I was writing a book and talking to them. So that was another thing where fear kind of stepped in, but I had to like push out of my comfort zone. Let's see, Colleen Ashley. Do they still have footprints on the sidewalk for the Freedom Trail? Okay, I was in Boston more years ago than I care to admit, and we followed much of their trail. Okay, oh, I didn't know that they had footprints. Okay, so right now they have, it's like 2 bricks along, which make a line down the sidewalk. So there's not footprints. It's like bricks. Actually, if you go on my website, there's a picture of it on the bottom. But that's what it is now. But that's neat that they had footprints. I didn't realize they had that. Shannon. Oh, thank you, Shannon. Yeah, I find it so fascinating myself, the genealogy. I mean, and if any of you have done genealogical research, please let me know. And I want to know how far back you've gotten, because I met with some groups that did this together at my local library. And, you know, some of them had gotten pretty far back. It was very, very impressive. So really, really cool about that. And also time capsules. Have any of you had any experience with time capsules? My town had their 350th anniversary last year, and I was at a conference, so I couldn't be there for it, but they unburied this time capsule, and they were able to, people from the town were able to put things into the time capsule. So I thought that was really neat too, but I had never experienced one myself, but that two very, very neat things. Okay, we're going to be getting to the giveaways. I'm going to explain them and just tell you how it's going to work. But you know what? First, I just want to tell you about my new book that's coming out May 8th of this year. This is from Tyndale Publishers. This is another time slip. It's titled The Hidden Side. This is an ARC, so we have the unedited edition, but it's a real book, so it's pretty exciting. It's getting real. This book is about a family that is torn apart by, look at the hearts. I don't know what the hearts mean, but somebody's loving and liking this, so thank you. This book is about a family that is torn apart by the unspeakable actions of one of its members. And it's about how a woman from the past helps them to heal. Oh, thank you, Kaylee. I can't wait for you to read it. The historical portion involves a real-life historical person who was a part of General Washington's spy ring in New York during the Revolution. General Washington had several spy rings, but this was his most successful. It was the Culper spy ring. And if any of you watch the TV series Turn, you'll recognize some familiar names in here. We have Ben Talmadge, Abraham Woodhull, Anna Smith Strong, Robert Townsend. And then, of course, we have my fictional heroine. She's based on somebody whose identity they're not 100% sure of. So I was able to kind of fictionalize that a lot. Let me see. I love her. Oh, I can't see who that was, but somebody said they love working on their family history. I have 2 lines I've discovered that go back to revolutionary times. That's so exciting. That just gives me chills. I don't know who said that, and I'm sorry I can't see your name, but Kaylee, you love Turn. I love it too, and I haven't yet watched it all because I discovered it when I was researching for this, and then I started watching it. And I was like, I have to just put this aside because I want this story to really be my own and stuff. So my husband and I are going through watching the rest now, but I love that TV series. That's great. Okay, let's get to some of the giveaways. How this is going to work is all you have to do is comment sometime during this Facebook Live video, and I'll just know that you are here, and you will be entered to win the giveaways. I'm trying to keep up with these. My grandmother's generation. Trace Dora's house is back. It's Pascal and Isaac Watts. Wow. And that was Tracy, I think. Like, that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing, Tracy. Perry Ann, hey, how are you? From Texas. All right, great. Okay. is fun. I love this. I love this. Yeah, Cynthia. Hi, Heidi. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Really, I mean, Cynthia and I met we were Genesis finalists in 2014. So we met at ACFW. That was so fun. And thank you for the compliment about going back and forth. It was definitely, I had help from amazing editor, but a lot of it was just God really guided me through that story. Okay, giveaways. So all you have to do is comment sometime during this Facebook Live video and you'll be entered for the giveaway. In U.S. residents only, I'm sorry. So we have 4 giveaways and they all come with a book except for this one. This is a $15 Amazon gift card because who doesn't like that? And then we have some organic dark chocolate and a book. So you can eat the chocolate and read the book, or eat the chocolate and, you know, read another book, or eat the chocolate whenever you want. And thank you all of you who have read the book, because I'm seeing these sweet, sweet comments. Thank you so much. And if you've written a review on Amazon, can I just be presumptuous right now and talk on behalf of all authors on this group and say thank you so much for leaving reviews, because reviews are just like gold to authors. And I didn't realize before I had a book published how important they were and how they worked and stuff. And I'm missing comments. Oh, I'm sorry. You were using, oh, somebody, the feel. Oh, thank you. Are you talking about the voices for each character? Thank you. That was a lot of fun writing that. Shannon said, I enjoyed the recent history as well as the Revolutionary War history. The 2 timelines. Maybe I shouldn't be reading these comments because you guys can probably see them. Mystery of the Ring was, thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. Okay, so we have the chocolate and the book. And yeah, thank you for the reviews. For any author, if you read a book and you can write a favorable review, that's big. Okay, this is a fun one. This is so fun. Okay, this is a tea chest, and I have one of these in my kitchen myself. It's so fun. Now, this is my plan for this. I'm a tea drinker, but I know a lot of you are coffee drinkers. And I'm thinking if you have like those K-cups for the Keurig, I'm betting they'll fit in here. So that could work. But you know what's inside here are 5 teas, the 5 kinds of teas that were at the Boston Tea Party that were dumped overboard. So that's really neat. So if whoever gets this wants to try the teas, that's cool. If you just, you know, want to be like, hey, the 5 teas from the Boston Tea Party are in there. That's cool too. Yeah, oh, you love hot tea. Okay, I love hot tea too. And actually I have some here and I haven't been drinking it, but okay, this is the big one for me. I love this prize. And I got this also at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museums gift shop. And they are an amazing museum. If you were ever at Boston and have a chance to go to this museum, like do it. It's great. Hey, Heather! Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to try to show this to you as best I can. I know some of you saw it on the picture, but this is a beautiful throw, and it just features just all things Boston on here. I mean, we have the swan boats. We have, look at, this is the old State House. And this is actually on the cover of Freedom's Ring. And the Boston Massacre occurred right here. And if you look at Paul Revere's engraving of the Boston Massacre, you can see this right in the background. And it's still in Boston today. Isn't it beautiful? Yes. We have, oh, anybody for, oh, I'm going to try to show you, sorry. There we go. Ducklings. Make way for Ducklings. Rob McCloskey. Anybody? Oh my goodness, I love reading his books with the kids. We have Old South Meeting House, this Faneuil Hall on here, Paul Revere's house, all the sites from the Freedom Trail. It's just beautiful, and I can't wait to see who wins it, and then I might just go out and buy myself one because I really want one. Okay, so that's that. So anybody who comments will be entered. I'll put your names in random.org, and I will try to get that out as soon as I can. for you all and announce that. Okay. History that will keep you warm. I love that, Ashley. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so please, if any of you have questions, now's the time to just key them in so I can answer them. And that's probably how the rest of our time will go. I don't have anything else on my agenda. I'm looking forward to next month with Angela and Finding Love in Park City, Utah. Okay, I want to read these. Did you read any correspondence from the Revolutionary to get a feel for the tone? Oh, yeah. There wasn't a lot, but I was able to read some journals. You know, Reverend Jonas Clark had, he was the Reverend who was in Lexington, and I used him a bit in Freedom's Ring. I don't want to miss your questions, but I'm wondering, okay, I'm going to take one at a time and we'll see how we go. Thank you so much for asking them. I'm going to try to get online on my computer and maybe I can see the questions that way too. So I was able to read some, because a lot of people didn't write in those days, but the learned men, the reverends, pastors, they did a lot of journaling and stuff. So I was able to read some of those. A lot of, you know, John and Abigail Adams wrote letters to each other, and they are amazing. So that was great too. So definitely I did do some of that. That's a great question. Thank you. And now the name disappeared, so I lost it. Oh, okay. Here I am on here. So maybe we'll try to keep up like that. What is your next project? Okay, this is my next project. I just talked about it a little bit. It's called The Hidden Side, and it's another time slip based in revolutionary Boston. Do I live in Boston? I just saw that one from somebody. I live an hour south of Boston. So I'm, you know, I didn't grow up going to Boston all the time. And actually, what was really fun is I took my mother for the first time, who lives right in this area. I took her to Boston for the first time just like a couple months ago. So, you know, that was fun. So we definitely live far enough away that you don't have to go. You can kind of avoid it if you want. But once I realized how amazing it was, you definitely don't want to avoid it. Okay, just started doing. Oh, cool. Have you found anybody, Katie? Have you found anybody like for anything? I mean, it must be so exciting. I had to fictionalize a lot of that and just imagine how exciting it would be. But let me know if you found anybody, because that's amazing. Okay, I see the questions over here. So I'm gonna go. Okay, I lived in Ames. I'm sorry. I'm really not multitasking very well. 4 years when I was in junior high school, in the history of the area. So it's amazing. I mean, I right now can't afford to up and go to Europe on a research trip, but that is what I feel so blessed to live right here in Massachusetts, because I don't need to look far at all for some interesting history to pop up. It's really neat. Katie, oh yeah, okay, so we already saw, okay. Do you think any of your characters are like you? What a great question, Kaylee. So I think I'm probably more like Annie, although I would like to be more like Liberty. Liberty is just, she's pretty gutsy for colonial times, and I really like her feistiness, you know? But I'm probably more like Annie, a little bit more, you know, fearful and maybe a little more reserved. So great question. Thank you. Heather, Bio says you are a runner. Yes. How long have you been running? So thanks Heather. I started running in middle school when I realized, you know, I wasn't coordinated with any other sports. I couldn't like catch a ball or even put like things on my feet that involve blades and wheels and stuff. So I went to running, and I ran high school cross country, and I was the captain of cross country and, you know, track and stuff. And now actually my sons and I just went for a run. My younger son rollerblades, my older son runs with me. We went for a run this morning, but I love running with them now. And my oldest son and I actually ran a 10K in Boston in the spring, and that was super fun. I feel like I'm missing. So how long did it take you? Thank you so much for all these questions. These are great. How long did it take you to write Freedom's Ring? Perry Ann asked. Okay, So this was my 6th manuscript. So I just want to put that into context because my first book took 2 years for me to write, but I think as I went along, I got faster. So the research for this was a few months, and then to probably write it, at that time I had an agent who was kind of, you know, I was accountable to, and that was helpful. So to write the book took me about 4 months. So that was pretty fast for me at the time. Tracy. In the book, Annie and Brad discovered a lot about Brad's ancestors through archives. Do all those types of records they really exist? Can you believe that? And that was a lot of the research I was talking about before going to the National Historical Genealogical Society in Boston. All of that, the different websites, the microfiche machines, the records, they're all there. And it's so cool. It's so amazing. But everything they found, I mean, of course I fictionalized the names for obvious reasons, but everything they found, like any type of record they found, is a real record. So great question. Great question. Any other parts of history that you want to write about? Oh, Kelsey, great question too. Okay, the question is, what part don't I want to write about? I want to write about every part of history I possibly can. I love all history. I've written World War II, World War I. I really love colonial Boston, Revolution. We're going to stick with that for a little bit, but there'll be other ones coming too. I've done King Philip's War, and look for that too soon. But yeah, great question. Your characters are very real. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Make all of your characters beautiful. You know, for me, Shannon, I actually, one of the things I struggle with as a writer is making my characters likable enough. So sometimes I think I put too many of my flaws that I have on them, and then they just become this person that nobody wants to care about. So that's something I have to be mindful of as I'm writing my story. But great question, and thank you for the compliment that they're real. And I was at a book club a couple weeks ago, and one of the ladies said, you know, I like that Brad's like a real man, like, you know, not, and it was nice of her to say that, because, you know, I'm married to a real man. He's not perfect by far, but he's still my hero. So that's really what I wanted to portray in that. Okay, am I missing anything else? I think I got everybody's questions. Thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I am going to work on those giveaways so I can get that all out to you. I know we haven't gone an hour, but I don't want to drag this out if we're all set. And I just want to remind you again about Angela Ruth Strong's book next month, Finding Love in Park City, Utah, and Heather Day Gilbert's book in March, which is Guilt by Association. Thank you, Michelle. You love the characters. Thank you so much. Thank you. I am going to keep reading through your comments and making sure I didn't miss any, and I think Facebook Live will let me comment on your comments, but we'll see about that. Thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. I know it's Saturday afternoon and there's other things you could be doing, but thank you for joining me. You have been such an encouragement. Thanks, Angela. Looking forward to seeing you next month. Okay, bye guys.